This is the door to the laundry room in our house. It's just a regular hollow core preformed door, and it has looked like this for 22 years. My wife's ready for something a little different. So we're going to take this door and give it a completely different look. Let's get started. Now we have to complete the cut on these unfinished corners, and the jigsaw is the perfect tool for that. I don't want the piece to drop free as I near the completion of the last cut and possibly damage the door, so I'm clamping these strips under here to support it. Okay, so we have exposed the hollow core of the door, and so what I need to do now is place solid wood in here around this opening, basically frame this opening out with solid wood for strength for what I want to do with it. And there are a couple of things here that I may need to address to get a piece of solid wood to fit inside here the way I want it. So we'll see how that goes. So just to be sure, I measured a few different spots around the perimeter of the opening, and it's a very consistent 1 1/8 inches. So I have one spot here I want to clean out just a little bit of material. Alright, so I have a leftover section of 2x4 here, and it easily contains enough material for me to get what I need out of it to line the inside of the door. So I'll just be ripping and cross-cutting this into pieces to fit like I need it to, and you know what table saw work looks like, so I'm not going to make you watch all that. Okay, so now I have all my pieces cut to size, and now I'm just going to glue them in place. I'm going to pin them with 3/4 inch pins just to hold them securely until the glue cures. Okay, got this part done. Okay, pretty good. Let's do a little bit of cleanup work. Thankfully, this edge doesn't have to be perfect because it'll be covered by the trim molding I'm using, but it does need to be nice and straight. The piece of plexiglass that I bought to go in here is 36 inches tall, but my opening is 36 3/4 inches. So I'm going to add a filler strip at the top and bottom to close in that gap, and that will be covered up by the trim molding that I'm going to use. And I apologize, but my voice is just going away. Okay, so here's the molding that I got to trim out this opening. This is called panel molding, and you can see how it fits over the edge like that, and then the plexiglass will be mounted behind it, sandwiched in between molding on either side. And I'll probably have to add some filler material, but we'll get to that when we get there. And I'll just shoot this in with 1-inch brads. Sweet. I'm going to put 3 little drops of glue on the back of this just for fun, just to help keep it secure, but it would still be removable if I ever need to replace it. Okay, well that's got this side trimmed out. Now, because I'm putting clear plexiglass in here, you would be able to see down into this seam between the molding where the plexiglass is just a little bit, so you would see the raw unfinished wood on the other side of the plexiglass if it wasn't painted. So I've got to stop here and paint the inside of this frame so that that doesn't happen. Okay, so I'm getting ready to cut the trim strips for the back side. And here's a scrap piece. And as you can see, there's a pretty good gap in here. So I'm going to need to add filler material. And I think I will just add it to the trim on the back side of the door. The piece of plexiglass is about 3/32 of an inch thick, so I don't need a very wide gap. So I'll just make up the rest of that with a filler strip glued to the back side of this molding. I've cut all the pieces of molding for the back side of the door, and they're all just a little bit long so that I can attach the filler strip to them and then cut them the final length. Here's a piece of trim after I have attached the filler strip, which needed to be 3/4 of an inch wide. Now I can sand over this joint and make it nice and flush, and it probably won't even show after it's painted. And to check the fit, you'll see that that goes on like that, and that leaves this opening here just the right size for the plexiglass. To finish these cuts as accurately as I can, I'm going to trim them a little bit long and then sneak up on the finished length. Okay, well, after several trips back and forth to the table saw, there's the finished frame. So now I'll paint it and then be ready to install the plexiglass. Here are the trim pieces after 2 coats of paint, and this paint that I'm using is a 2-in-1 primer and paint, which is why I didn't prime the raw wood to begin with, which was something I normally would have done. And it has done a pretty good job of covering the unfinished wood. Don't you think so, Pearl? I think so. I also flipped the door over and put a couple of coats on this molding. A lot easier to do without the plexiglass in place. So next step is to install the plexiglass. Okay, as I stated earlier, the piece of plexiglass is 36 inches tall and it's 30 inches wide. But my opening is 23.5 inches wide. So I need to cut it to the right width, and I'll leave a little bit of room for play, so I'll cut it about 23 3/8. Sweet. I'm going to install this static cling privacy window film on the plexiglass so that you really won't be able to see through it. Of course, the easiest thing would be to install it on the plexiglass before I install the plexiglass in the door. But then the film would be trapped between the molding, and if we ever needed or wanted to change it, I'd have to pull the molding off. So I'm going to go ahead and complete the installation of the plexiglass and then install this last. Remove the protective film. Alright, here are the trim pieces, and before I painted them, I marked which one goes where. Go ahead and get them in place before I brad them in. Alright, looks good. Okay, now we'll just putty up those holes and give it another coat of paint when I paint the door. This is my first time to do any of this film, so I'm not going to try to teach you something that I don't know yet, but it looks like basically you just cut it a little bit oversized, about an inch or so longer and wider than you need, and then trim it to fit. Once you get it squeegeed on there, you use soapy water and a squeegee. So let's get that started. This is the back side of the door, which will be the interior of the laundry room. Okay, this is the film. I have removed the backing liner and sprayed it down with soapy water. And here we go. The soapy water allows you to reposition and get it adjusted properly. You kind of get it fitted in there as best you can with your hands, working out as the large bubbles as you can. Then spread a little soapy water on there for lubricant. Use a squeegee. Hey, that's working pretty good. Just squeegee out the bubbles and to begin to squeegee out the water underneath. Good deal. Well, I have to admit that that went more smoothly than I expected. Okay, so that's got it pretty well sealed down to the glass, and there's excess all around. So now you just trim off the excess. I'm going to use this as a straight edge and utility knife. That's working very well. Pro tip, make sure your knife is nice and sharp. And so now you just squeegee out the water. And this paper towel will absorb it as it comes out from under the film. Well, this is working pretty much just like the instructions said it would. Well, there you go. And really, there is no noticeably visible gap around the edges. I'm very pleased with the way that turned out. Not bad for a first time. Okay, I'm going to call this side done. This is the back side of the door. Time to flip it over, paint the front side. Okay, the modification is done. The painting is finished. Now I just need to reinstall the hardware and we can hang it back up. These are the hinges that were originally on the door, and you can see they're this kind of brassy color. But all of our other door hardware is satin nickel. So while I have the door off, I'm going to replace those hinges with these hinges, which more closely match our existing hardware. Wait. It's not done yet. Now it's done. This was a fun project, and I hope you've enjoyed watching the video. If you have, hit the like button. That tells YouTube to recommend it to more viewers. And if you appreciate this type of content, you might consider subscribing to my channel. But I thank you for watching,
and I hope that you'll return in the future for another video.